9, a proclamation declaring Washington County as America's county. Commissioner Iverson.
Well, just like to speak to it. All of us are going to speak to this a little bit. Hopefully you've picked up about how excited we are about Liberty Village coming to Hurricane and this Liberty Week that we are going to start around the 4th of July. Remind me, I always remember, is it the 26th of June that we kick it off? And of course, we're going to have this this very substantial exhibit display here in this building, and there's going to be a lot of other fantastic events surrounding that. And so over the last few months, we've talked as commissioners, our desire to really put into writing our thoughts and feelings about this great country. And there's so many things right now, if you read the news, things that divide us, and yet this nation has been blessed and has a beautiful history that we should be celebrating. And so it was our goal, all three of us participated in the writing of this document that we're going to read here in a few minutes. And then we turned it over to Devin Snow to actually put it together, and he did a fantastic job at capturing all of our voices in it. But really it's this idea that Washington County is declaring itself as America's county, that it's not just going to be this 1 week that we have coming up, but going forward, we want our citizens and our friends that come here and visit to celebrate the goodness and the greatness of this nation with us. And so we have Dennis Levitt and here and others to speak a little bit to it, but I'll also turn the time back over to you as well, as we have a little bit of discussion before we read this. So,
Commissioner Alquist.
Well, certainly as we've all contributed, and it's fun to read it because I can say, okay, that sounds like Victor. Okay, that sounds like Adam. Okay, I know that was mine. You know, I mean, we can all say that about each other, and I really am proud of this fact that I hope that it sends a message to the other 3,000 plus counties of what America really is and how we're striving to make that known, and that we've put it to words. And granted, you can probably say, oh yeah, that's in the Bill of Rights, or that's here. We didn't plagiarize anything, but you can see the concepts that we brought forth in there. There's a place where you're going to hear words that we talk about patriotism and freedom and fairness and liberty. And we talk about God-given rights, and we talk about those things which may sound repetitive, but they're really at the heart of what we believe. Now, today's been an interesting day. We have met with all the mayors on crime and gangs in particular. We've met with the Children's Justice Center about youth and they're being abused and how we're helping them to get through that. We've had meetings on water. We've had meetings on all kinds of things today. It's been a broad day, but one thing that my comments reflect on is that some of the things that we're facing in the county have come here from other places, that maybe they've tried and failed there and they want to see if they can increase their failed ideas here. So I just want to say, you know, don't move here if your intent is to take away our freedoms. Don't move here if you're going to perpetrate crime on any of our citizens. Don't move here if you have failed ideas that failed somewhere else or will yet fail somewhere else. Don't come here if you're going to disrespect our law enforcement or first responders. Absolutely do not move here if you're going to disrespect our local or U.S. history. Don't move here if you are not going to help build Dixie, but rather tear down. Don't move here if you're not willing to sacrifice and work hard. Don't move here if you're going to disgrace our flag. Don't move here if you're going to disrespect our original Paiute residents and those who are here before us. And don't move here if you're going to show your biases or discriminations against anybody or their beliefs or thoughts here. And above all, don't move here if you're not going to recognize the principles of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights and every amendment thereafter, because that's the foundation. And we want to stress that in this proclamation, as well as every single word that's in it. So otherwise, move here, be free,
Yeah.
enjoy it, respect the land, respect our people, respect our processes that are well over a century and a half old, and let us progress and grow together, but at the same time, build upon the foundation we already have.
Well said. Yeah, I don't need to repeat any of that from either of you. Good comments. Just know that the purpose of doing this for us was that we wanted to make sure that the world knows, that America knows, that Utah, the rest of Utah knows that Washington County will forever be a beacon of freedom and of liberty for this state. And you can, if you want to know what it's like to live in a place that is still free, that you need to look here and use us as an example, and then take that back somewhere else to replicate that idea, and continue, make sure that we continue to spread freedom around the world.
Do we want to allow Dennis Levitt to come up?
I was about to get to that. So Dennis Levitt with United We Pledge. If you want to come up and say a few words, we've worked very close. We love the mission of United We Pledge, which is a nonpartisan, just trying to help people understand the foundation of America and what freedom really is. So Dennis?
Before Dennis speaks, Mr. Chairman, Dennis has been involved in this idea of America's County. Now, Dennis didn't write this. In fact, I don't know if he's read it yet, so he's kind of...
I'm anxious to hear it from y'all.
A little nervous, what we came up with, but it's just been outstanding, this idea, and we're excited about Liberty Week and all of the events that you and your team have been organizing as we come forward this month, the end of this month. 3 weeks away, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Showtime.
Thank you. It's really not about us or our team. It's about all of the people here. I was fortunate enough to grow up here in St. George. I always thought of it like Opie's kind of community where he grew up, but I always felt like I grew up in Mayberry. I've always felt like St. George and Washington County and the surrounding towns have always been America's county, and I've been grateful and blessed to be able to enjoy that spirit throughout my life. And I'm like you. I just want that spirit to carry on, and we want to do everything that we can. None of us can do anything more than we have resources or talents or skills or ability. We all just do our very best in the station and situation and circumstances that we're in. That's where United We Pledge is at currently. We're not trying to do anything other than bring people together, lift where we stand, and make our community the very best that we can. But wholeheartedly, we stand behind an idea to publicly declare that this ought to be America's county and that we ought to treat it as America's county, and we ought to do everything we can to promulgate that idea specifically amongst the rising generation. I would say that we'll give you our commitment as an organization that will be as supportive and promote as hard as we can and lift our voice as loud as we can, not just from June 26th to July 4th this year, but we'll do it every year thereafter. We'll do it during Constitution Week and during the month that the state of Utah has just declared as Founders and Constitution Month. We'll do it leading into the Bill of Rights celebration and every other celebration that there is. We'll do it in schools, through educational programs, to We're on your side, and I'm genuinely honored to be led by men who are really courageous enough to make a stand like this. I don't think this kind of thing is being done in many counties around this great nation of ours, and I'm grateful for all that's being done from a host of people who are linking arms trying to make it happen. Can I be indulged to read one other quote from John
Sure.
Adams? Is that okay? I want to be cognizant of time. There are many people who make oaths that they'll defend the Constitution from enemies foreign and domestic. I've thought about that some. We certainly understand the need to protect from foreign entities, but the whole domestic thing has caused me some pause. Then there's this quote from John Adams: "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Greed, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Our duty and our responsibility is to raise a generation that preserves and protects all the things you're talking about. What does the Constitution need right now? The Constitution needs Dennis Levitt to repent. It needs Dennis Levitt to become a better man than he was yesterday. It needs Dennis Levitt to be everything he can be to be morally and just. The problem with our Constitution is not the Constitution. Never has been. The problem with our Constitution is people who should lead it and protect it internally, and the only person I can protect it internally from is me, and that's all we can each individually do. So, United We Pledge will pledge everything to promote in every way goodness in this county, and we will, with dignity and honor and grace, wave this county's banner the best we can, welcoming everyone who wants to come and join with us in this. So thank you again for your efforts. We're just happy and proud to be a part of and live in this great little area of the world.
Perfectly said.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And Chair, before you read it, I look at this as our Declaration of Independence, this day. We had our original Declaration of Independence to show what it meant to be under the thumb of another power. But Dennis, you're right. Our threat is within. And as long as we are staying together, no threat from without will defeat us. This as our Declaration of Independence from what? From all those who would take away from America, from all those who would destroy the law of the land, the Constitution, and other laws that have been formed. Independence from those who would shackle us. I don't want to be under the burden of every day waking up and wondering if I won't be free that day. And so that's part of our declaration is, and proclamation. And no other county is doing it that we know of. It's probably making them mad that they didn't think of it because there's good county people all over.
Really
But we're plowing the new field because we feel strongly about it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So with that, I will read the proclamation now. It says, a proclamation declaring Washington County as America's county on this day, June 6th, 2023. Whereas the United States is a promised and blessed land preserved as a haven for freedom and peace where liberty can blossom and thrive for those willing to support that cause. Whereas the foundation of freedom was constructed in small parts throughout the world over many centuries, true freedom is a uniquely American experiment. Whereas only in this great nation has the ideal of liberty, longed for by all mankind since the dawn of time, been established in an enduring and perpetual form. Whereas never before has a nation been as successful, peaceful, and prosperous as America since 1776. Whereas never before has a nation done more for the cause of global peace, prosperity, and liberty. Whereas those successes globally are directly attributable to the liberty of citizens of America. Whereas America quickly became the beacon to the world of how nations should be governed and how the natural state of people is to be free. Whereas the founders of this great nation were men and women willing to sacrifice all that they had, including their own lives if required, to establish that cause of peace. Whereas the early pioneers to the great state of Utah came to reclaim their right to practice their religion and to live in peace. Whereas they longed to maintain the freedoms granted by a young and fragile nation. Whereas determined men and women were sent to Washington County in the furtherance of freedom in practical application and cooperative success of the state and region. Whereas only those brave enough and strong enough stayed and survived in Utah's Dixie. Whereas that history of courageous hard work and striving for independence in an unforgiving environment established a legacy of endurance and determination for the success of liberty in this land. Whereas freedom, patriotism, and liberty have long been defended through courage and bravery in Utah's Dixie since inception. Whereas the courage of our founding fathers was carried in the hearts of the early pioneers and still thrives in the hearts of new American patriots in Washington County today. Whereas those ideals are fragile and under constant threat of destruction. Whereas the nation and world need shining examples of liberty and of a responsible and limited government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Whereas with that passion, we declare that Washington County, Utah, is America's county, the example of freedom in the land of liberty, that all who live in Utah's Dixie will collectively strive and fight for constitutional freedoms, that this land will be a beacon to the world of how a community thrives in liberty. Whereas Washington County, Utah proclaims the blessings of a democratic Republican form of government and individual freedoms protected by our U.S. Constitution. Whereas in these times of social confusion and division, let us work to build a more perfect union by celebrating what brings us together, not what divides us. Let us remember the divine truth that all mankind are created equal and endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. Let us love our neighbors and care for one another so that a civil society and limited government will be the natural order of our county. Whereas we celebrate our national goal to work towards a more perfect union, let us remember the past so that we might understand ourselves. Let us use history as a teacher to learn divine truths. Let us celebrate the good by a recommitment to kindness and civility towards one another, regardless of race or social background. Government and society must always be the framework to protect, not abuse, this self-evident truth. Whereas we remember and celebrate the Paiute Nation, whose family fires first made this place a home since before recorded history, and who were the first in our county to believe in individual freedom, and whose descendants are our friends and neighbors. Whereas we give thanks for the divine wisdom that rested upon the founders of this modern American nation to guide them to establish the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Whereas with gratitude we remember the sacrifice of the pioneers whose hard work and sacrifice laid the foundation for the prosperity and opportunities of today. Whereas we salute all our sons and daughters who in their youth took up arms to defend and protect peace against the never-ending waves of tyranny. Whereas we support those in our community who have chosen a career as a first responder to keep our county a safe place where criminal behavior is not tolerated. Whereas principles of democracy embodied in the Republic of the United States dictate a continued vigilance to maintain liberty, commerce, justice, and basic human rights. Whereas the words "we the people" are just as viable and effective today. Whereas the flag of the United States is a symbol of all that is right and achievable in a free society, and citizens have the right to singularly display it. Whereas personal freedom is reinforced and protected by a strong military and law enforcement. Whereas family is the basic fabric of strong community and national achievement. Whereas the foundation of America is referred to by the founders is based on a belief and homage to the overseeing eye and hand of deity. Whereas we have respect for those who first inhabited the land. Whereas we maintain a recognition of the intrinsic goodness of Americans and their cause. Whereas all are welcome to this free and inviting land. Whereas Americans in business are hardworking, innovative, and fair. Whereas the words "in God we trust" are taken seriously here. Whereas patriots of America are needed in every county, city, town, and household. Whereas all institutions of education, public and private, must demonstrate a dedication to achieving the principles of Americanism. Now therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Washington County, hereby declare and proclaim all of Washington County as America's county, with a perpetual commitment to stand by the principles of the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Utah, the Bill of Rights, and the principles of American government. We do this to preserve the God-given rights, as referenced in the Declaration of Independence, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you very much. I think that was my motion.
Oh, and I'll second that motion, and I appreciate you reading that. That, like we said, it was all three of us contributing, so it did come out a little longer, but I think it worked, and it was beautiful. Thank you. I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, a long motion, and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passes. Item number 4,